Over to you, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Tim, the question that we were trying to address here is combating counterfeit products through brand strategies. Combating counterfeit products through brand strategies. So I think it is a very topical issue, and many thanks to the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe for bringing in this particular topic, which will help us a lot more in collaborating to deal with the counterfeit products that we have seen in the Zimbabwean market. I think it is critical that we start off by defining what a counterfeit product is. So a counterfeit product refers to something that is made in imitation of something. So in the context of products, it's just, in short, a fake product or an illegal product. It's really an unauthorized replication of a genuine product. So we have seen quite a number of these products across all the sections of the economy, be it electronics, be it luxurious goods, be it in pharmaceuticals, even currents. We have actually seen some counterfeit products in those sections. And these counterfeit products are really impacting on our business. It's really impacting in terms of the brands, our brands, and also the public health. Those are some of the implications I will talk. I'll talk to that in detail in my next slide. But basically, the counterfeit products have an implication, particularly on our brands, which is why we're now taking a perspective to say, how do we respond to these counterfeit products that we're seeing in the market, leveraging our brand strategies? Yes, we can tackle this issue from a brand perspective. We can also tackle this particular issue from a legal perspective. And I know there are certain steps that have been taken on the legal perspective, working with the industry of commerce and the government to try and see how best we can protect our businesses, how best we can protect our brand from these counterfeit products. So imagine a situation where everyone knows a particular brand, like, for instance, Coca-Cola. But there are some fake products that are coming quite branded the same as Coca-Cola. But these brands are coming into our market unverified by the Standards Association of Zimbabwe, or the contents of these products have not been verified from a health perspective, such that they exposes our people whom we leverage on to drive our business growth. So these counterfeit products are really impacting, first and foremost, in terms of the public health. People are now, our consumers are now prone to some health effects because of this.
We're good, Doc, yes. Doc, are you still there?
Consumer then drinks that fake product, fake Coca-Cola. He or she may conclude that, Delta Beverages is really producing fake products or substandard products, which really is an implication to Delta as a corporate. Not only
1446.
So that has an impact in terms of the brand, and the consumers will find it very difficult to trust the brand. Even if you look at the market competitiveness, if the market is characterized by fake products, it affects on the market competitiveness. Even in terms of us generating revenue for the economy through exports. It makes our products cheap. It makes our products less competitive on the international market. Those are some of the implications. Now, if you look at this particular problem from an international perspective, the problem is quite prevalent at a global level. I'm sure the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development have estimated the counterfeit goods accounting for about 3.3% of the global trade, which is really a problem. And we have seen major brands such as Nike, Apple, and Louis Vuitton being replicated. People, even the clothes, etc. People are trying to leverage this brand, the brand equity, to make money. So people are just replicating these brands and trying to make profit, leveraging on this on the equity for this particular brand. So this has really an impact on the business. And also now, if you look at the problem in the Zimbabwean context, you find that this problem has really increased a lot in Zimbabwe. There are quite a number of counterfeit products that we are seeing in the CBD, a lot more in the high-density suburbs or areas like Mbare. We've seen products coming from South Africa, from China, and some of these counterfeit products are being made locally. I'm sure we have seen some of the people who are reproducing perfumes, people who are reproducing a certain beverages with different brands, which cannot really be we can't really confirm from a health perspective if they are safe. And also, I've seen quite a number of players trying to manage costs, the tax cost, by reducing, like for instance, in terms of this steel, you will see that if you're looking at steel, it could be a 10 millimeter steel, but in actual effect, if you weigh the kgs of that, it will be maybe around 8 millimeter, or the grammage of that or those products is they've tried to reduce. Why? Because they are trying to profit here. They are trying to run away from costs. Hence, we have seen quite a number of counterfeit products. But the major question is really now to say, what is the implication of these to the businesses, to the brands, and how do we leverage our brand management skills to counter these counterfeit products that we are seeing in trade? The next presenter will also then talk to that in detail. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Doc, for that concise overview. It's more on what is the counterfeit product, what are the detrimental effects in the Zimbabwean context, what are we talking about from an international perspective, what is the way forward. Tari will just ask you to talk us through the brand strategies that would address the topic for us. And shortly after, we'll ask Kudakwashe to also talk us through. Kindly feel free to put in questions as each presenter goes through, and then we'll take it up when all the presentations are done. Over to you, Tariro.
Sure, thank you very much. And thank you to Dr. Mapfumo for that context, for defining what counterfeit products are and the impact that they have on corporates as well as brands. So I guess the first thing, if your brand falls victim to imitations and counterfeit products, the first thing to do is to accept the compliment, because it's only big brands with strong equity and strong credentials that are usually targeted for counterfeits, because the imitators are trying to ride on that equity to launch their products. So accept the compliment, because it means you're certainly doing something right with your brand that has caught the attention of counterfeiters. But while you accept that compliment, there is a lot of work to do as custodians of brands to prevent and remedy the situation in the cases of counterfeit. And Dr. Mapfuma has spoken about some of the impact in terms of trust around your brand, as well as subsequent revenue and sales impacts that may come through if the consumer is hesitant to buy into your brand because they're not certain that what they will buy will deliver on the promise. So one of the strategies that can be implemented, and this happens as a preventative measure, is to always ensure that you have strong intellectual property rights in place. So is your brand registered? Whatever trademarks that you are using, are they registered with the relevant authorities to make sure that if and when the time comes, you are prepared to take even legal recourse against any counterfeit products? In the absence of IP protection, your brand doesn't quite belong to you. It can be used and abused by anyone. So ensuring that you invest in the right registration for your different brand properties and protecting these from anyone who may want to use them without your permission. Second is a lot of consumer education and understanding that for the consumer to buy into a counterfeit product, it could be the result of one or two reasons. It could be that they unknowingly bought into the brand. They actually thought that what they were buying was the correct brand. And it could also be because they found something more affordable on the market. As the consumer's disposable income becomes a bit more stretched, there is a tendency to want to find cheaper alternatives as the consumer is buying. And the ways to address this are different depending on what the cause is. So first of all, if it is because the consumer has genuinely, unknowingly bought this product, thinking that they are buying the authentic product, then there's a lot of consumer education around identifying the authentic brand from any imitations that could be on the market. So this has a lot to do with teaching the consumer the features and benefits of the authentic product, what your color is, what the font is. And this could be done in many engaging ways, such as consumer engagement around spotting the difference, or which one is original, which one is not, so that you are engaging the consumer in learning the features that will then help them at the point of purchase to differentiate what is the real thing and what is not the real thing. So work to be done in acquainting the consumer with your brand and how it looks to guide them in their purchase decision. In cases where the consumer has knowingly bought into a counterfeit because of cost implications, which we know happens a lot, then now the work to be done with the consumer should be centered around teaching them about the value of your brand and how, and I'll speak in vernacular to explain this. Sometimes it's not always that if you purchase something at a lower cash outlay, you will derive value from it. And I've seen a lot of brands engaging in campaigns around communicating value in very smart ways. So it could be speaking to the number of uses that you get if you buy the original. It could be the number of glasses that you will get from the original versus what you will get from an imitation. If it's, for example, washing powder, the number of average washes that you will get from a pack as opposed to what you will get from an imitation. And we've seen in the conversations that are happening with consumers amongst themselves talking about counterfeit, how it's not providing them value, because sometimes they have to use more than they usually would with a counterfeit product than they would with an original product. So consumer education in this regard, educating the consumer about the cost of value as well as the cost of quality, because sometimes what makes the original product more expensive than the imitation is what the company has invested into making sure that it is a quality product, and sharing that with the consumer, that we have added the value of quality to you to assure you that once you have spent your money on our brand, you get value for your money, as opposed to imitations that have cut corners. In some cases, I think it was a juice brand where people were actually getting sick because what was in this imitation was not actually for human consumption. So educating the consumer about some of these risks that come with sacrificing $1 here and $1 there to buy what is not the authentic product. Another strategy that can be used is implementing product authentication technologies. And we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and technology plays a big part of how we are taking our products to the people and how we're communicating with consumers. So in this case, looking at maybe including QR codes on product packaging, and for very high value products, unique serial numbers that at the point of purchase, even in your absence, in the absence of any campaigns or any communication direct from the organization, the consumer is able to verify that what they are buying is an authentic product. I've seen this with some shoe brands as well as liquor brands as well that are of high value, where they'll now put a QR code and you can scan through to a website that will confirm for you that what you are investing in is the real product. Again, if a brand decides to take that direction, there's work to be done around educating the consumer on what it is they should look out for when they get to this website, because in some instances there's really no stopping with counterfeit products once they have decided to really replicate. They could as well apply a QR code on their packaging. So it's important that the consumer knows what it is they should see on the portal once they've been led to a portal from a QR code. So again, here it's around leveraging technology to add an added layer of assurance to the consumer once they've bought your product, to make sure that they trust that it is the authentic product. Another important piece of work is to collaborate with regulators, and we'll hear from a representative from the Consumer Protection Commission around some of the initiatives that they are currently engaging in on the ground to protect consumers from counterfeit products. So this collaboration is two-way, right? In the same way that we're counting on the regulators to protect our brands in the market, we should also be feeding into their initiatives and their actions with information. What do we know about what is happening in the market? What do we know about how our products are being tampered with, how our brands are being tampered with, so that their efforts can be guided based on needs from industry. Social media is playing a big part in communication and the exchange of information, not only from brands and between brands and consumers, but amongst themselves. Consumers are having conversations about our brands. So there is opportunity for a lot of social listening to identify cases of counterfeit. I mean, as a brand custodian, you know the average price of your product. The minute you see someone offering it for significantly less, it could be an indication that there is something that needs to be investigated in how that product has landed that cheap. There are several marketplace groups that you can engage in social listening, as well as hearing what the consumer is saying about your product. If there are complaints about it not delivering on the promise, digging a bit further into what the consumer is experiencing with your product, because it could well be that what they are commenting on is your brand, but not quite your brand. It's an imitation. So keeping your ears on the ground and in those social spaces to understand what the conversation is around your brand at any given point in time. Public awareness campaigns can also be used to minimize or mitigate against this risk of counterfeit products, and this involves raising awareness, which I'm seeing a lot of right now in this season that we're in as a country, as an economy, where we've noted that this problem has increased in extent, and there's a lot of conversation that is happening and bringing the consumer and the shopper to be aware of the risk and to know what they stand to lose, what they stand to lose in terms of health, financially, as well as the risks, but sometimes you just don't know what is in these counterfeit products. So raising awareness about the prevalence of the problem and where the consumer can seek to communicate when there is a problem. I had an interesting conversation with a consumer recently where they highlighted that they were not aware that as a single consumer, they can even approach a company and engage in a conversation about the experience they've had with the product. So making sure that our consumers are aware and empowered to reach out if they have a concern, if they have an issue, to approach the brand custodians and talk about how they're experiencing the brand or what it is they're finding in the marketplace. I know we put, in the case of products or even services, we have websites, telephone numbers, addresses. But is the consumer empowered enough to know that they can reach out and have a conversation with a brand, with a company? That is a piece of work that we as marketers need to do to keep the communication lines between ourselves as brand custodians and the brand users open for exchange. Now, some of the work that happens in counterfeit products and imitations doesn't exclude our own supply chain partners. So along the value chain, there may be cases of abuse of your resources in the form of your logos, your brands, your packaging material. So building strong supply chain relationships and making sure that we have contracts in place that ensure that anyone who handles elements of our brands is handling them with due care, and there's some form of regulation around how they can use and pass on the piece of the brand that they handle, whether it's packaging or it's your agency that develops your artworks who have access to your logos. Small pieces along the value chain can leak elements of your brand that open up doors for imitation. So it's important to safeguard the brand even along the value chain before it even gets to production. Who else is handling elements of the brand that need to be safeguarded? And then last but not least, there is an opportunity to leverage cases of counterfeit. They say that no publicity is bad publicity, right? And this could be communication around how everybody wants to mimic the best, everybody wants to be the best. There is an opportunity to ride on the wave and increase your brand equity by demonstrating how yours is a brand that others want to copy, but just making sure that your consumer can identify the real brand from anything that is fake within the market, and using it as an opportunity to demonstrate how loved and revered your brand is within the market. So these are some of the strategies that can be employed to address cases of counterfeit. Understanding that as you embark on these exercises, there's a lot of cross-functional support and internal and external support that you need. And it is an investment that a company would need to make in order to minimize the long-term impacts of having counterfeits of your product on the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tari. I guess that was the gist of the topic on counterfeit. That was the summary. From a brand perspective, what do you actually need to do to make sure that your brand can survive the counterfeit products and the brand strategies that you've highlighted, and the very pessimistic outlook that no publicity is bad publicity and that it's a compliment. Before opening it up to the floor, or rather, Kuda, please take over and school us on Consumer Protection Commission, what it is. As part of full disclosure, one of the first things I've already asked Kuda is Consumer Council of Zimbabwe versus Consumer Protection Commission. What is the difference and what does this mean for us? But over to you, Kuda.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isabel, for allowing us to take part in this discussion from the Consumer Protection Commission. But as a preview, I just want to say that the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe did a great work by enacting the Consumer Protection Act, Chapter 1444, that was in 2019, after so many years of lobbying, where we working through moral suasion. So where I'm coming from the Consumer Protection Commission, which is a statutory body created by an act of parliament, which is the Consumer Protection Act, which is there to protect consumers against unfair trading practice in the market. And I think I'll go into detail about some of the issues that are under discussion today in terms of this proliferation of substandard or fake products in our markets. But I think she had said that before I proceed, I just need to make a distinction between the Consumer Protection Commission and the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe. I will need to say that the Consumer Protection Commission is the authority, or I can say is now the regulator after coming in of the Consumer Protection Act. So it's almost like it's now the super regulator in terms of all issues to do with consumerism, protecting consumers, carrying out enforcement, all the other activities that you might think of in terms of consumer protection. So there's no any other body in the country after 2019 which has got the power to enforce consumer rights. So it's now the preserve of the Consumer Protection Commission. Then if you look at the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, firstly, I just want to acknowledge that we want to appreciate the work that they did before 2019 as a non-governmental organization, which were advocating for consumer rights without the teeth. I think that was the complaint, that yes, the Consumer Council is there, but there's no teeth, which has now been created through the Consumer Protection Act. So it's a non-governmental organization whose role is to lobby or to do advocacy work on behalf of consumers, so that like what happened, coming up with the necessary piece of law that protected the consumers. But then if you read in the act, in the particular section 55, it says that there should be designation of consumer protection organization through a statutory instrument by the Minister of Industry and Commerce. And the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe is one of those organizations which is mentioned and is going to be designated as a consumer protection organization for the purposes of carrying out conciliation and arbitration of dispute between parties. So I think they are not going to focus. If you look at the law, they're not supposed now to focus, and we are in the process. We have already done the paperwork. We are working on their designation, and very soon they're going to be designated as such through a statutory instrument by the Honorable Minister. So I think in terms of the distinction, let's hope it has clarified the issue that needed the clarification. Then as I proceed, I just want to say that the Consumer Protection Commission wants to inform members of the public that in terms of the law, we have got adequate provisions that protect them from these counterfeit or fake products, or you can call them substandard products. Because if you go to section 10 of the Consumer Protection Act, it says that if you look at the Consumer Protection Act, I think I can say over 60% of that act, it speaks about consumer rights. You've got your right to choose, your right to education, your right to health and safety, your right to fair contractual agreements, your right to information, your right to redress, representation, all those rights which are outlined in the Consumer Protection Act. But under the subject matter we are discussing today, our focus is section 10, which speaks about the right to health and safety. And if you go to subsection 1, I think it talks about that suppliers are prohibited from selling products or goods and services which do not meet a mandatory safety and quality standards as prescribed by law. And then if you also go further to subsection 2, it also outlines that consumers have got a right to receive goods which are safe and free from and defect. And then I think for our discussion that we are doing today in terms of the law, does it give adequate protection from this counterfeit or substandard or fake products? Then I have to say yes, that is outlined in section 10. But then if you go to section 13, then it says that it actually gives penalty provisions where anyone who violates these provisions is subject to prosecution and is liable to payment of a fine, which is level 14, and level 14 is $5,000 US, and can actually also be imprisoned for a period not exceeding 2 years. But let me put a disclaimer there that the commission is not there to prosecute business, or the commission is not there to disrupt business, but we are simply saying, please, can we abide by the law and make sure that whatever we are supplying our consumers is up to standard, is not hazardous, does not harm our consumers. And if I could just go back to our previous speaker, which just finished, he talks about issues to do with education, and then, but now we have to focus on the issue of enforcement. But what are we doing now? Because these things, they're happening, and everyone is concerned about this proliferation of substandards or fake products which are in our markets. And the net effect is that our consumers are the ultimate people who are going to be disturbed, because they are now exposed to risk. But these products which are now sold, which are counterfeit, there's no competent authority which has looked at those products. So no one, like I think she talked about the issue of SARS, no one has certified those products. They are in our markets, and something needs to be done. So what we are doing as a commission is that we are now collaborating with other stakeholders. We are talking about trade measures, a department in the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. I think I also need to highlight that the Consumer Protection Commission is a parastatal under the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So we report to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So we actually work with trade measures. We are also working with the Zimbabwe Republic Police. We are working with ZIMRA. We are working with SARS. We work with MCAS and also other private sector players. Because if you look at the way how the Consumer Protection Act is structured, and in particular Section 87, Section 87 actually says that the Commission is supposed to work closely and collaborate with other regulatory authorities so that our consumers, they are protected in the market. And basically, so what we are doing, this kind of collaboration is actually in the law, and it's part of the fulfillment of Section 87 of the Act. So the way how we work is that we rope in these other players, and then we do some blitz and targeting areas that we think that these are the sources of these counterfeit products. But I think we've seen under that bullet that we've talked about the private sector players. What we have noted that we're doing enforcement as part of the regulators, as part of the enforcement agencies, but we've noted that doing enforcement without the involvement of the actual players who are being affected, I think it will be an exercise in futility. Because like I think we're talking about the example that we've been given of, say, Coca-Cola. It's only Delta Beverages that can now assist in terms of making a distinction between whether this product is fake or is not fake, because ours is enforcement. So we are saying this close collaboration is very, very critical with the private sector players, because on the other end, they are the losers in terms of business, because the reports that we are getting is that most of our businesses, they are losing big time in terms of loss in sales, loss in revenue, because now people, they will be buying these counterfeit products. And some of the products that we've actually identified, I think sugar, I'm not sure whether, I think some people now, there's some videos which are circulating. I think I received a video even as far as today, where there were 2 kgs of sugar. And believe me not, when they were put on a scale, they were around 6.96. Just imagine, which are supposed to be 10 kg. So we can see that our consumers, they are really a big shortchange on that front. So that's where now we bring in the trade measures. Both trade measures, they are guided by the Trade Measures Act, which also looks at consumer protection, but from a side of measurement. So our consumers are being shortchanged, not only in terms of this, in terms of even counterfeit, in terms of standards, but in terms of the quantities that they are being packaged. So we are working very, very close with them, and I think I'm also able to report that we've actually netted some businesses, some premises which are selling these products, and some of them we've actually taken them to court. But if I may to go further, I would want to say that I think the previous speaker also talked about issues to do with consumer education. Because what we've noted in our surveys is that, you see, most of these substandard or counterfeit products, you don't usually find them in these big formal shops. You find them in the streets, you find them in these unregistered businesses. So as part of protecting our consumers against these counterfeit products, we are now going around educating our consumers to buy products from licensed or legal shops, so that at least they protect their health. I think the previous speaker said that some things that you think are cheaper, because the main attraction in the street is that a product, let's say you find selling in big shops for $2, then someone will say this is $1, even half the price. But we are saying it's not only the issue of price, but it's the issue of the quality of the product, it's the issue of the genuineness of the product, the issue of about, both the long-term effect is that your health is going to be compromised, and we now have to incur actually more costs than you would think you have saved. So we are saying in terms of, we are doing education and awareness, and I think what I can appeal for now is that as a commission, might need more resources, because the task that is at hand is very, very big, and we need all the players, the industry players, ourselves, other government agencies. We come together, we pool resources so that we educate our consumers. And in addition to educating our consumers, we also, if you look at Section 70 of the Consumer Protection Act, it actually empowers the Commission to appoint inspectors. And I'm happy, and I want to applaud and also appreciate the support that we've received from our Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and in particular our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Utete Ushe. I think he has been working flat out, and he has been holding even some meetings. They've been providing us resources. I think for the past 2 weeks, the PS has actually gone out of his way, trying to mobilize more resources, and is still mobilizing more. So I think in the coming few weeks, we are going to see our teams in the market, and trying to make sure that at least we nip this the bad practice in the bud. And as a commission, we are not going to rest. Be rest assured until all perpetrators are brought to book, and we are appealing for members of the public to assist us with the information. I think I'm not sure whether this platform I'll be allowed to give our numbers, but we are saying as part of the work, those who come across these products, we are appealing them for tip-offs, because we can't be everywhere, so they can actually assist us. They can phone the commission. We are found at number 17, Josiah Chinamana Avenue, near Montagu shops. And I'm also happy to say that we are actually going to open office in Blueway. We've secured the offices through the assistance of the ministry. We've also secured offices in Mutare. So we are going to open offices in all the country's 10 provinces, and also we increase our manpower so that we actually make sure that this issue of counterfeit, we take it really, really serious and move forward. But what I can say is that I think let's work together. I think the industry is the affected players. Can we please come on board? Because ours is enforcement. We are there to enforce, but we need the information, like the way how the police works. They receive the collaboration from members of the public, and that's by the same token, we are also appealing to our industry players, to our members of the public and other interested parties, other regulators, so that we come together. I think we've even working with the MCAs. I think you know that there are issues of drugs. There are various sectors where these things are happening, and we need everybody to come on board and arrest this anomaly and move forward as a country, protecting our consumers as part of the fulfillment of Vision 2030, which speaks of having an empowered and upper middle income society by 2030. And rest assured that we are going to make sure that we cover, I think that's my last words, we're going to cover every blade of the country in line with His Excellency mantra that we should not leave anyone and no place behind. I thank you.
Thank you. Very clear and concise and passionate, I might add. I'm going to just kick off with questions that I saw on the chat option from Bert Nyabaza. The question is, I'd like to find out if Zimbabwe law enforcement is working closely with MAS to spread awareness on counterfeit products. When we stop checking what is on our shelves and how it got there, are we not creating a gray area in the market? Any of our panelists to talk about that? Maybe Kuda as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I can say for now is that, yes, as regulators, we actually started engaging the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe. And this is actually the reason why the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe roped us in this particular program. And it's actually part of the awareness. But what I can say is that what we just need to deepen the relationship so that we spread the message. But like what I've said, it's not only MAS, was no single organization, given the enormity or given the enormous of the task at hand, we can do it alone. So definitely we need everybody, MAS included, other regulators, other government agencies, the private sector players. We need everybody. So really, yes, we've started engaging everybody, including MAS, so that we work together and spread the awareness to our consumers. You'll be seeing us through radio, television, newspapers, etc.
Okay, Bert has another question. I'll just take it up before I open to everyone. Is there a way the Consumer Protection Commission is working with the public to shame and boycott counterfeit merchants? I recall a chat with a friend on the lack of ways the consumer can test what they bought or what they thought is fake, at least to know if they had been tested. Some of these counterfeits may have the logos of agencies like SAS. Any of the panelists to take that up? I think you've addressed it, Kuda, right?
Yes, yeah. I've addressed it, and I think I'm not sure whether you want me to elaborate, but basically, I think this is part of the work that we are doing, and we're actually going to do more. We're going to work with the SARS, and also there's some education. You know, I'll just take an example of water. What we've been educating our consumers is that after drinking water, we're encouraging our consumers to destroy. There's a way where you press the empty bottle so that it's not reused, and also part of, I think, the enforcement part of it, where we bust these syndicates. I thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to open up to the panel to find out from a Zim perspective and experience, any of the panelists can share. Do you feel we are doing enough to put in the recommended steps that we've talked about in terms of electronics from your experience and observation? Do we have the tracking codes? In terms of, like Kudas just alluded to, water, why do I need to squish it extra hard so the container is not, reused? How do you feel, what is the practical element that as Zimbabwean manufacturers and consumers we are doing? How far are we with doing that? which of our panelists can take me up on that?
If I may.
Yes, please.
I do feel that there is work being done, but there is a lot more that can be done in protecting the consumer. The consumer themselves must be wary of the products that they buy. They must be afraid of counterfeit products, and that comes through educating them on the risk that they stand if they continue to purchase counterfeit. The companies themselves have a responsibility to make sure that there is an understanding of what is real and what is not when the product is on the shelf to protect the consumer. So as the problem is becoming more rampant, the efforts are now intensifying and becoming more. So as we move, I'm sure we will do more to protect our consumers from the risk of counterfeit. But as we are now, there is a lot of collaborative work across industry that needs to be done.
Okay. From a corporate point of view, is there a budget for awareness against fakes? Doc, maybe you can come in as well.
Yeah, sure. Definitely, you find out that these counterfeits are really impacting on the business operations. So, and it's really impacting in terms from a brand perspective. Okay. So obviously, corporates need to create a budget to drive awareness. I'm sure I've seen the likes of shops putting up a communication to educate the consumers, saying, if you look at this particular 2-liter Mazoe, check on these particular features. Also look at the address to have confirmation that this is a locally produced. I know the people whom we are dealing with are quite innovative. They always look for strategies to counter that. So it's a complex environment, but the consumers should put up a budget to drive awareness and to educate consumers in terms of how they can identify their products and confirm that these are original products. Also, from a legal perspective, just also to add on what Kuda explained, to say we also need to tighten, I think, on the borders. We've discussed, I think the talk of the town currently is to do with the runners. So much products is coming from beyond the boundaries, and also some maybe fraud that we always see at the borders there. A lot of products coming in through the bus. I'll give an example of the gray imports products that is coming from Zambia. People taking advantage of the exchange rates to bring in some of the cheap products from that end. So yeah, we just need to tighten, and also from a corporate point of view, let's keep an eye on these. Let's do market visits to verify these, and also form partnership with the traders who sell these products, so that they are always buying from you, or we structure some deals or promotions to drive loyalty. Thank you.
Thank you. An observation from BIT. Any chance the Consumer Protection Commission is working with universities, especially the innovation hubs, which are open to the community? It would be a loss to new innovators losing ideas to copycats. That's a different element of counterfeit. Is that something that's in place, Kuda?
For now, there's no quite a framework, but I think what I can say is that I just want to appreciate the question by our listeners there. So what we are going to do, I think, is actually a wake-up call. So immediately, I think we are going to engage the universities. This is a good idea, so that we also actually work with them, so that we come up with a framework, even if it means coming up with memorandum of cooperation with these universities. This is a very brilliant idea that I liked, and definitely after this meeting, we are going to spring into action and make sure that it comes to fruition. I thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Maybe just to highlight and say it's now easier nowadays because of this education 5.0. You find that most of the universities have been asked to have innovation hubs. And if you look at the study programs within the universities, they're now directing towards practical development other than just theory. So with the innovation hubs that are around the institutions, it makes it easy to present such projects so that the students can start working on some innovation and collaborating with the private sector to have some systems in place.
Okay, yes, valid point. Alan Flonami says, which steps should a consumer take if he or she buys a product, maybe that has brought harm to his or her health? The question is directed to CPC. Kuda, what happens if I've bought fake milk? What is the process that's in place for that?
Okay, thank you so much. Let me say that I think there's a part that also need to educate before I go direct to that question, is that in terms of section 42 of the Consumer Protection Act, it has now outlawed what we call disclaimer clauses, your no returns, no refund, and no exchange. So if a consumer buys a product that does not meet his or her expectation, the consumer has got a right to report. So what I can say is that because in terms of the law, there's what is called alternative dispute resolution mechanism, where someone can approach the supplier directly to say, no, the product that you have supplied me is fake. I want my refund. Because the consumer is the one who's got a choice. If you want a refund, you're supposed to get a refund. If you want an exchange, you get an exchange. So it's not the shop owner who says, I want to give you an exchange or I want to give you a refund. It's your choice in line with section 42. So what I can say is that once a consumer has bought a product and feels that is fake or is not satisfied, he must return that product. That's the first port of call. If he does not get any satisfaction or any help, then he's supposed to report to the commission through our hotline numbers. I think I can give them 0719 176 856 or 861 or 865. So I'll just repeat. They should report to the commission on our hotline numbers 0719 176 856 or 861 or 865. So that's basically what they can do in terms of answering that question. I thank you. I think we're also going to put on the chat box our numbers.
Okay, I've just been given 5 minutes to wrap up. Maybe Tari mentioned an interesting take, which Doc Mapfumo also alluded to. If I buy, for instance, I realize I've bought a fake product, do I report to the shop I bought from? Do I report to the manufacturer? Or do I just go straight to CPC? Anyone from the panel can take this.
What I can say is that quickly, like what I've said, first thing is to approach the shop to say this product is not meeting the expectation. Then if you don't get any joy, then you report to the commission. But section 65 also says the consumer can actually even report to the court directly to say I've been wronged. You've got that, there's a legal right for that way. You can approach the court, you can approach the commission, or you can even approach a consumer protection organization. So those are the remedies which are available. Thank you.
Okay, great. Doc Mapfumo and Tari, is there a structure that's in place from your experience with FMCG's products? Can I just walk into a manufacturing concern and complain, or do you then send me back to where I bought it? What is in place if I had to come direct to the manufacturer?
So more often than not, companies actually have complaint handling processes and SOPs in place. The only challenge is actually getting the consumer to feel empowered enough to bring forth complaints. Even from statistics, they will say it's only 1 in 10 aggrieved consumers who will take the initiative to come and complain. So again, a piece of work to be done around ensuring that the consumer knows that they can seek redress, right, directly from companies. But in most cases, there are processes and standards for handling consumer complaints through either brand teams or quality teams within organizations.
Okay, thank you. Ed Moore has says, I think as a country, we need strong policing, prosecution to bring the book to perpetrators. The perpetrators are known, their place of operations are well known. It's a matter of the ZRP, Consumer Protection Commission, to put in place punitive measures for offenders. Thank you on that one. Maybe my just quick ask to the panel and to Kuda. You spoke about having brought some people to court. Have there been prosecutions? Was the punishment punitive enough for people to change their ways? What's been your experience since the commission was launched?
Yeah, thank you so much. Since last year, because we started our work last year as a commission, and what we've done, yes, we've prosecuted some businesses, and I'm not allowed to give the names, but some of the business premises, we fined them $3,000 because we took them to court and they were prosecuted. And but I think the challenge that we have is not on prosecution, because those that we prosecute and we make sure that there's no recurrence of the same problem. But you know, the challenge that we have is that most of these things that are being done, they are being done underground. You know, these products, they are being manufactured in Mbare there, and the package, even the packaging, the fake packaging is being made in Mbare, in some of these hideouts, some of these hotspots. But that's why I have said we're actually working with the Zimbabwe Republic Police so that we flush out these malcontents. But otherwise, in terms of prosecution, yes, the penalties, they are deterrent enough. The challenge is that it's being done underground. So we actually need to do more so that we fish out these people who are perpetrating this kind of shenanigans. I thank you.
Okay. Thank you. From the panel, any new questions? Sorry. I think Mr. Brian is giving me a talking eye at this point. I'd like to thank the panelists. Combating counterfeit products through brand strategies. I feel it's very well known what are the strategies that we need to execute. It's now having the legal muscle to execute them, and also having the budget allocation to follow through on what we know. And we want to look at, in terms of practicality, are we prepared to handle this? From the intro, Doc spoke about, this is not just a localized problem. It has international connotations. People, fake phones, and you know, Apple is quite the leading player in trying to come up with countering these strategies. But it's key for us that all this must then come out with the localized element. Thank you once again, Dr. Mapfumo. Thank you, Tari. Thank you, Kuda. Brian, over to you.
Right. Thank you all for joining us today for this wonderful insight on combating counterfeit products through brand strategies. Before we close, I would like to take you through two of our major events for this quarter. We have got Interbrands Sports Games on the 20th of July. It's going to be a full day, and we've got a number of activities from our usual football, netball, volleyball, basketball, tennis, and also our traditional wishu, rakaraka and maflau. I would like you to join and participate, and also there's a room for exhibition and sponsorship. Secondly, we've got our MSZ Charity Golf 2024. It's on the 26th of July.